see if we got everybody present.
And Mr. Chairman, before we do that, Bill Vance
has
just asked me to announce that we are recording this meeting, just to let everybody know.
Okay.
Thank
All right, so I'll start with the blurb. So the Health and Educational Facilities Board of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee, will be held in accordance with Executive Order Number 16, signed by Governor Bill Lee on March 20th, 2020, as extended by Executive Order Number 34, signed by Governor Bill Lee on May 6, 2020, as extended by Executive Order Number 51, signed by Governor Bill Lee on June 29th, 2020, as extended by Executive Order Number 60, signed by Governor Bill Lee on August 28th, 2020, allowing a governing body to hold meetings by electronic or other means of communication without a quorum being physically present if the governing body determines that meeting by electronic means is necessary to prevent the spread of COVID-19 or other related epidemics, to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public and members of the governing body. All votes taken during this meeting will be by a roll call vote. And now I will take roll of the members. Mr. Perry? Mr. Brown?
Present.
Dr. Aday? Miss Baldwin?
Here.
Miss Sharp? Mr. Moth?
Here.
Chairman Meyer?
Here.
And then I'll go back to Mr. Perry.
Sorry, I'm here with just a couple technical difficulties, a new docking station for my laptop, so I apologize.
And then Dr. Aday.
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Thank you.
And let me just say we have a new member. I'm going to ask Cindy Barnett to introduce her, and if you would, please.
We'd like to welcome Shell Baldwin to the board. We're so glad to have you, and we're all looking forward to getting to know you better. And I'm looking forward to trying out your new bakery and all that comes with that. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, we're glad to have you, and sorry that we can't greet you in person, but look forward to that day soon.
All right, me too. Fingers crossed.
Right. So we've got minutes from the last meeting, which was August 10th, that were mailed to us. Does anybody see any additions or corrections that need to be made to those minutes? If not, I would call for a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Move approval of the minutes as presented.
Move approval by Mr. Moth. Is there a second?
So move.
Second by,
Second.
okay. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion on the minutes? If not, although we'll take the roll call then to vote for approval of the minutes as presented. Sarah?
Perfect. Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Dr. Aday?
Aye.
Miss Baldwin?
Aye.
Miss Sharp?
Aye.
Mr. Moth?
Aye.
And then Chairman Meyer.
Aye. Okay, thank you all very much. The first order then of business that we have before us is a request from ECG Chestnut Hill, a limited partnership for, this is a preliminary approval for issuing not to exceed 33 million in bond multifamily. It's a multifamily housing project. These folks and company has been before us before. In fact, I think I read last month's meeting with a different project, but this is a new project, and I'll call on somebody from ECG or to speak. Who would that be?
Yes, this is Grace Evans. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you can be heard.
Great. So, yeah, Grace Evans. I'm speaking on behalf of Elmington Capital. I think this board's pretty familiar, but Ellington's a Nashville-based development company that specializes in affordable housing. And then I also have Pete Azell, who's our bond counsel with Baker Donaldson. He's on the line. Also, if we can take questions, but I'll just run you through this real quick. We are here today to talk about our proposed new construction multifamily bond development. So it's going to be on about 5.8 acres in Nashville, right by Tribeca University. So we're still working through our site plan. We've gone through a few iterations of this one, but right now we're showing about 194 units. So that'll be a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, more weighted towards the 2 bedrooms. And the site layout will have 3 residential buildings, 3 4-story splits, garden style layout, brick, hardy board facade. We'll have leasing office, fitness center. We're also planning to have a pretty sizable dog park in the center. And I should also mention we're planning a neighborhood meeting for next month to gather community and neighborhood feedback. So we'll take that into account as we're finishing up our site plan. Just quick overview of the financing. We'll be applying for LIHTC from THDA through the 4% tax exempt bond application as soon as that 2021 application period opens. And then we'll also be applying for a 10-year pilot from MDHA. The rest of the financing's pretty straightforward. It was written up. We're here today requesting a not to exceed amount of $33 million in tax exempt bonds. And then we'll also just have a pretty straightforward construction loan and equity. We're still floating with potential investors. In regards to the timing, we, like I said, are planning to apply for those tax credits bond award from THDA. So the application typically opens in January, February of 2021. And then we would anticipate closing in spring 2021, at which point we just hit the ground running. We'll begin construction right away. And we're expecting about 18 months to complete that construction. We'll actually start delivering units a little bit earlier, typically around month 15. So we would expect to be fully leased by spring of 23. And then, I'm here. Pete's also on the line if you have any specific questions.
We are required to have a public hearing for this, so I guess we'll go ahead with that first. I'll ask Cindy Barnett if we've had anybody contact wishing to speak for or against this proposal.
I have not received any requests to speak today at the public hearing.
Okay, so as I say, this is a public hearing. Of course, the members board members can also ask questions here in a minute, but let's see if there is anybody, maybe besides the representatives, I assume, of the company, anybody else desiring on the meeting by phone, audio today who wishes to say anything for or against this project. Okay, it appears we have nobody from the general public wishing to express an opinion on this project, so we will close the public hearing and open it up to questions from board members. And I will just say, are you sort of in an industrial area? I'm somewhat familiar with Tribeca, and I'm still trying to get my bearings looking at this map. I should have studied it more carefully, but do you have industrial near you?
Yeah, so it's literally right next to Tribeca. And I know there is a lot of industrial within that area. It's kind of wedged in between Wedgwood Houston and Chestnut Hill. And I know a lot of that has been historically industrial, but a lot of that is transitioning over. But I think our proximity to Tribeca keeps it less industrial.
Is it currently zoned residential or multifamily, or do you have to do zoning?
We are actually working through the zoning right now. So we actually have, that's also part of our community meeting that we're going through. So that we'll be doing next week. So we're submitting our preliminary SP application actually today. So we should have comments back on that within a couple weeks. But we're hoping all that zoning should be finalized in February. We've been having direct dialogue with the council member, Colby Sledge. And he's been supportive of our project, as has Tribeca University, just to make sure our site plan everything is consistent with, what they're doing across the street.
Is there a
specific?
Sorry, go ahead, Isaac. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, no problem. I was just wanted to get a sense of what were you expecting from the community meeting? Are you expecting somewhat of a favorable, positive response, community being receptive to your project? Are you anticipating any pushback of any kind?
We don't anticipate any pushback at this time. We actually think, just given the location, that, so if you're, as you all know, if you're a full-time student, you cannot live in a LIHTC development. But if you're, part-time student working full-time, or, full-time student with your spouse working full-time, you can live in this development. And we also think we're going to pull a lot from Tribeca employees, which is why a lot of them, living in this development would just be, walkable to campus, which is a huge perk. So everyone we've talked to has been supportive of the project. Honestly, the community meeting we were talking about next week is in the center. I said we were talking about having like a very large dog park, but it's like more talking about like what kind of amenities people want to see.
Bobby, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Meyer. With regard to available supply of affordable housing in the surrounding area, what does that look like? And I know this is new construction, so the amount that you all need to, of course, build from scratch would be more than a remodel. Can you just kind of help us from the standpoint of, is this like an affordable housing desert in a quickly transitioning area of Nashville, and that's where you see sort of the demographic need?
Yeah, so like I said, I think we'll pull a lot from the Tribeca area, but we also manage, Elmington does, we own and manage the park at Hillside, which is like 1 mile from this property. And as you know, that one is 50 years old and in not great shape, hence why we're doing our entire redevelopment of that. But as it is right now, in those older buildings that were built in the 70s, it's fully leased with excess demand. So we've got that project in Nashville. And then this is on the other side of town, but we have one in East Nashville called Oakwood Flats that this board is also the bond issuer on. And that one is 280 units. And we leased up at 60 units a month during COVID. And typically 30 units a month is really good. So I just think this shows, like, for Nashville, we've never had problems with leasing up our product, especially just because we do, with this new construction, the quality of the product that we build is so desirable. And then this location, this Tribeca area and close to Wedgwood, Houston, which I think is seeing a ton of growth. I think it's going to be an area that a lot of people are going to want to live in, plus proximity to downtown.
I have
Meyer again. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm looking at page 31 of the packet where you have the sort of red outline of the footprint of this. How many stories will this complex be?
It'll be 3 4-story splits. So are you looking at the site plan right now?
I think that's what it must be. It's on it's page 31, and it sort of has a view from drone height. Looking to the north.
I don't have that PDF in front of me, but it's going to be 3 4-story splits. So the parking's in the center. So you would, just walk right in. So it'll be like 3 stories up and then 1 story down.
Okay, great. And because I looked up, 101 Factory Street, I know that area fairly well for funny reasons. And it didn't seem to go all the way to Geyser Street, but your your site map does. Are you pretty sure that's right then, that your property will be extending?
Yes,
In the,
yep.
in the west, okay, all the way. And I think that also, that road is I think that's the back entrance to Trevecca, right? It's the same road, right? It continues. It's hard to tell.
I need to go. I've definitely been by there. I'm not sure where the back entrance to Trevecca is, but I mean, I do know our cross streets.
Okay, that's all great and very, very helpful. This is such an industrial area right now. It's sort of hard for me to imagine, like, just someone, I mean, that's not really our decision, but when I'm over there at night for a music rehearsal or something, it's bright lights and clanking sounds, and I'm sort of, how do you see this whole area evolving in the next decade, I guess might be the question.
Yeah, we've actually seen a lot of development, especially like Wedgewood, Houston, and Chestnut Hill. I just feel like it's all bleeding through. The other perk about this site, you probably also noticed that there is some topo, but you would get some really good views as well of the city.
Thank you.
So it is somewhat, excuse me, it's Steve Meyer, it is somewhat hilly topography there, is that right?
Yeah, for some reason, Elmington loves to choose sites that have a little bit of work through.
And I also take it there were no like industrial tanks underground or something like that, right? I'm sure you
No, there's not. It was part of a brownfield agreement a long time ago, but they have like a no further action letter. Like everything has already been cleaned up before we ever purchased it. I don't think there were ever any tanks, but I know when we were looking at the PSA, everything was clean.
I think I heard you say that there were going to be 194 units. Is that correct?
That's what we're anticipating right now. I think site plan or the SP allows us to go up to 204, but right now we're underwriting 194.
Okay. Do you have a certain percentage that you're thinking will be filled by Trevecca, related individuals, or are you just kind of opening it up, or is there like any incentive for the Trevecca folks to get on board?
I think the incentive would be the location, but we can't specifically offer some residents, like less renters, anything than anyone else. So what we usually do is we open up, we start taking it, we'll get an application after closing or a website after closing, and then we go just based on whoever signs up first. First come, first serve. But we can't like reserve certain units.
And are these leased or these purchased, these units?
It's all rental.
Okay. And are there like, is it just standard 1 year, 3 year, 5 year kind of deals?
Yeah, I think, you can sign for less, you can sign a 6 month, you can sign even less than that. I think typically what we see is a 1 year lease.
Okay.
I apologize if you addressed this already, but did you highlight the pricing structure for these units?
I didn't. So
Okay.
all of these units are going to be targeted at 60% AMI. So just looking at Nashville's latest rents, the 2020 rent. So for a 1 bedroom, the net rent, so that's net of utilities, would be about $864. 2 bedroom would be $1,031, and 3 bedroom would be $1,189.
Grace, this is Steve Meyer. Those rents from you talked about the one in East Nashville, one renting up. Is that where you're getting the rents from? Is that your current rents there? Or that's what I was going to,
Yep,
these proposed rents?
Those are, some of the rents at Oakwood might not be updated for 2020. They might still have some 19 until they like roll over. But these are the published rents. So it's driven by, whatever Nashville's, it's the lagging average. But whatever our area median income is, it's a percentage of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I was curious what the rents are that you're renting up. You talked about the one you're renting up now, what they are renting for.
Yeah, we always just rent up at Max LIHTC. So if you're like signing in a new lease at Oakwood, that's what these rents would be as well.
Just for the lay people, Max LIHTC is?
So every time like HUD comes out and they come out with like limits of the maximum rents that you can charge for LIHTC developments, and it'll break it down for what a 50% AMI unit is, what a 60% AMI is. So all of these are published rents that are driven from HUD's calculations.
But the
Rent
term
levels.
LIHTC, explain LIHTC. Is it LIHTC? Is it the
Yes.
acronym? What is that?
It's low income housing. Tax
Okay,
credits
each
is
of
what
them,
it's-
LIC,
credit.
TC,
Tax credit.
low income housing tax
credit.
credit. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Seven.
So those rents are set. Those rents are set, and you just charge the maximum that you can whenever it's allowable there.
Right.
that
So
correct?
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how we're underwriting it right now. We're underwriting at 2020 rents right now. I mean,
Right.
this will deliver till end of 2022, but right.
So a question here, Mr. Chairman, if you're done.
Sure. Go ahead.
I think I saw in the packet, but and then heard you say earlier, you're expecting to make your application to the THCA for the tax credits and the bond allocation shortly. So the posture of your application right now to the board is you're asking us to give you a preliminary approval resolution to take forward with your package.
That's correct. We have to have that primary resolution and agreement before we can actually submit our application to THDA.
And so I think the normal course of events is that after you have put your deal, gotten your allocations and put your deal into essentially final terms, you'll come back to this board for a final bond resolution to take forward to issue the bonds.
That's correct.
Okay. Another question. I think I heard you mention that you're going to have a very large dog park as an amenity.
That's what we're drawing up right now. There's still discussion in my team over apparently whether they want it to be a soccer park or a dog park, but we are open to ideas.
So if it's a dog park, would you allow medium and small dogs as well?
Yes.
Thank you. We're all about diversity on this board.
I love that.
We do have a resolution. As I mentioned, this is an application or a proposal. I mean, it's an application, but we first, for our new member, that we do in this case asking for preliminary approval, which is we call an inducement resolution, which they can take to Tennessee Housing Development Agency and say we've got preliminary approval. If it meets your requirements and you give us the tax credits, we will go back to this board, hopefully for them to make a final decision and issue bonds. So today we're not issuing any bonds. We're just in giving them an indication that this is a preliminary approval, and when they get, which would also of course include proper zoning for the property, then we would take final action to actually issue bonds for this project. So there is a resolution that was included in our packet. So we need to adopt this resolution if you want to give preliminary approval to this project. Is there a motion from anyone to approve this resolution?
I'd
So
like to-
moved.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
No, you're good.
Okay. Becky's moving, and Chris, you're seconding. Is that
Sure.
correct? Okay. Any further discussion?
I would, when you, this is a new area for me, and if I would love to see sort of the supporting letter from Trevecca and maybe some other evidence that the community really has had outreach on it before we get ahead. Although obviously the zoning hurdles should handle all that even better than, that's not our job, but good luck.
Yeah, thanks. And you're welcome to come to the community meeting as well. It's open to anyone.
Have you set one at this date, at this time?
We're still working through it. I know it's scheduled for October. I don't think we have a date yet set.
And Bill, as the zone change has not been introduced, you're not been introduced at this point either. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Or
we've talked to the council member about it to get support, but I think the application's actually going in today.
Okay, so he'll be making proposal, which of course will go before the planning commission also. Okay,
Yeah,
we
please,
have
please let us know about that meeting. I am very curious how you run it, especially during the pandemic. Good luck.
Okay, thanks. Yep, we can let you know.
Yes, you wonder how many people will turn out for a community meeting at this time, but okay. Any further questions now, discussion? If not, I'm going to call for a vote on the resolution and ask Sarah to call the roll for the voting yay or nay on approving this resolution for preliminary approval of for this project. Sarah.
Thank you. Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Dr. Aday,
Aye.
Miss Baldwin,
Aye.
Miss Sharp,
Aye.
Mr. Moth,
Aye.
and Chairman Meyer.
Aye. And the vote is
7-0.
7-0. Okay. Thank you. All right. So good luck with that. We'll look forward to having you back whenever you get all your approvals and ready for us to reconsider for the final bond issue. Okay. Our next matter is a proposal for final approval. We had them here before us. Was at the last meeting, I think, for this is the Blakeford at Green Hills for final approval of up to $110 million. This involves refunding some existing bonds. This project was initially funded and undertaken with bonds from our board, from this board, and some of this issue. Actually 3 different series, and they can explain them, but I know one of them is to refinance and refund existing bonds that are outstanding, and then they have a proposal to add units at this retirement center, which many of you may be aware of, out in Green Hills, just beyond Green Hills Shopping Mall before you get to Harding Place. Who is representing, speaking for the Blakeford?
This is Jerry Peterson with Butler Snow in Atlanta. I'm pleased to report Freddie Freeman knocked in the winning run in the bottom of the 13th.
Okay, yeah.
Well, let me introduce our other folks. Jim Porter is our partner in Nashville, who's the general outside counsel. Brian Barnes is the president of Blakeford. Al Griffin's the chief financial officer. We have Ryan Snow and Jimmy Rester from Herbert J. Sims, the underwriter, and Peter Delaney from Raymond James, who's the financial advisor to Blakeford.
And I'm sorry, Jerry, you are, what's your role?
I am bond counsel.
You're bond counsel, okay.
And as was mentioned, there are 3 series being authorized. The first series, not to exceed $56 million, would be underwritten by Sims. There's a second series not to exceed $27 million that also is going to be used to finance these improvements. And those are entrance fee bonds that will be repaid probably 100% by the entrance fees from these units. Those bonds and the refunding bonds are being purchased by Truist Bank. And the third series is a initially taxable series to refund these 2012 bonds that, when the advanced refunding period permits it, will be converted to tax exempt bonds. So these are so-called Cinderella bonds. Hope to get in the market in October and close in early November. And so if there are questions about the project, the folks from Blakeford can answer that. And folks from Sims can talk about the underwriting process.
Okay, of course, we did have a presentation last time, but I'll let somebody there just give one synopsis of the project itself, what the new construction involves.
Yeah, I can take that. This is Brian Barnes, president of Blakeford. As may have been mentioned, Blakeford is a continuing care retirement community. So on the site, We have multiple levels of care. We have independent living, we have assisted living, and we have skilled nursing. Those folks that move into independent living pay an entrance fee, but we also take direct admission into assisted living and skilled nursing as well. So this project does a multitude of things across the campus. It does add new independent living apartments. And in that new building, we're also adding a new wellness center, includes a new fitness gym and other fitness areas, including a pool for the residents. But in addition to that, we are replacing part of our assisted living building and building a new memory care wing, which we right now do not have a secured memory care level of care. We'll be adding that level of care. And then going really into all the existing areas. The campus is, well, come this January, will be 25 years old. And so, you know, like any facility or any building, it's, you know, showing some age and it needs some refurbishment. And so we'll really be going into all the existing areas of the campus and levels of care and updating finishes, doing different levels of improvements throughout the campus. It'll also benefit, you know, the current residents, not just those that'll be moving into the new building. But happy to, you know, take questions on any of the project.
Brian, would you just give us numbers on how many new independent, how many assisted, how many nursing?
Yeah, excuse me. So we're adding 51 new apartments. Independent living apartments. We currently have 124 independent living, adding 51 in the new building. And then we currently have 46 assisted living apartments, and we were replacing part of those with memory care. So we'll actually end up with 23 assisted living and 24 memory care. So we're really not adding, there's not a net add there. We're just adding replacing part of our current building with a different level of care. Skilled nursing, we have 83 licensed beds. That number doesn't change. So really no change to the bed count in skilled nursing.
Is there any changes at the nursing facility at the Woodcrest?
There are, in terms of, for example, we're going to add 500 square feet to our therapy space and move its location. We're doing significant enhancements to the dining room and to the kitchen in that space to change kind of our culinary program for our skilled nursing patients, and then, you know, paint, carpet. So yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit of some cosmetics, some a little more material in the skilled nursing setting specifically. Yes.
Okay. Questions from any board members?
Yeah, I have a quick curiosity. In my imagination with these bond issues, I usually sort of think of bond brokers, you know, handling and closing of these deals, which are ultimately located at, you know, with wealthy individuals who are getting the tax benefits of the tax exempt bond. But here, I think, if I'm reading correctly, the bond actually ends up on the balance sheet of SunTrust Bank. Is that, am I reading my packet correctly? And is that
A portion of the bonds do, and they actually, it's not the bank, they have a special purpose entity that purchases these bonds, but it is an affiliate of SunTrust or of Truist.
I got you. So I can have a checking account there and still vote, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And we've seen other transactions like that where the transaction itself is finalized and the bank chooses to hold the asset itself. Right. I mean, I know some secondary schools that the senior lender is the bank. They come through our board as a conduit issuer. Bank still chooses to keep the debt instead of syndicating it.
Yes, that's correct. This one has both aspects, both a public offering with an underwriter for the Series A, and then Chris, you're exactly right. Series B and C are being purchased directly by the bank.
Will Series A have a credit rating?
No.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
they're currently rated BBB. They go before the rating committee next week at Fitch. So they are investment grade bonds.
Someone tell me the interest rate on the existing bonds?
The existing bonds in 2012, they all have a coupon of 5%.
And what do you anticipate for the new issue?
Sure, we received a proposal for a rate of 2% for 10 years. So again, that can change. That's subject. You can't price that until we close the loan. But based upon rates, I believe on the 3rd of September, that would have been the rate, which is unbelievable. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and seeing that was for a revenue bond was eye-opening, but in a good way for the Blakeford.
Does that, James, fully amortize that series? 10 years?
It will be, sure. There will be a 17-year amortization, and after 10 years, right now there's, I believe, 25-ish million. After the 10 years, there will be roughly 11 million left when the term from the bank.
So those would be subject to a put by the 10-year buyer.
Correct.
And a remarketing, essentially.
Correct. Which again is very, very common. I'm sure many of you have seen that before.
Further questions?
Not directly related to the this issuance, but Mr. Barnes, has it been 7 or 8 weeks since we left preliminary approval? I know there's been a lot of updates from a COVID perspective. How are things on campus, and have you all had to change anything operationally?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's certainly been significant changes to operations in terms of, visitation, for example, or lack thereof. Been challenging for sure. We, as you may know, because of our skilled nursing setting specifically, we've been testing weekly all staff across the campus and all of our skilled nursing and assisted living residents since, I guess, right after July 4th is when that week testing started. There's some new rules going into effect. You may have seen in the news that CMS put out, effective actually tomorrow. So we're excited to be able to start to offer some limited visitation here starting in October, based on the fact that we have had, I think we're going on 6 consecutive weeks without one positive on the campus, either residents or staff. So, and we haven't had any, really no serious illness throughout the entire episode or the pandemic, and no one's lost their life either due to the virus. So, it's been challenging, like I said, and impacted, how we've had to operate, but knock on wood, so far we've avoided any kind of serious spread of the virus. We're starting to look at reopening some things.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, the team has done great, and I guess you got to get a little lucky too. So,
Mr. Barnes, let me ask you about the current situation when people develop dementia. What are their options? Say they're in independent living, one of the spouses or members, residents develops dementia. What are their options now on your campus? Where would they go?
So you see a variety of I guess it
or do
depends.
they leave the campus?
Right. So variety of situations. If it's a couple situation, frankly, you see if one is able to manage their spouse, they'll stay in independent living and manage the situation. And that, to a point, can be managed. Now, depending on the health of the person afflicted with Alzheimer's or whatever the diagnosis is, we do have the ability, if they need skilled nursing, we have a skilled nursing floor that is secured if they require that level of care. So they could stay there. But if they're still ambulatory, is where it gets challenging, right? And especially if they don't have a spouse, even more so. But we have folks in assisted living. We do have a Wonder Guard there that we can manage them to a point, but there does reach a point based on what we can do on our campus today where we ultimately do have to ask them to seek another location that does offer truly a secured memory care environment. And that happens, I think since I've been here a couple of years now. I mean, it's happened. It'd probably take a couple of hands to count it. It's not like it's unheard of. It does occur.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Obviously that's why, adding memory care allows us to obviously take care of those folks and not have to have them leave the campus. So it's
and so the assisted unit, you're basically converting some of your current assisted livings to those memory care units.
Yeah, we're actually, from a construction perspective, we're literally taking half the building and tearing it down and building basically on that same footprint, another 2-story building to replace it, although it's configured differently and it's a wider footprint to allow folks that have that condition, the circulation that they need. And also we're adding an outdoor secured memory care garden where they can go outside and safely have an outside environment. And so it'll be so it's being designed obviously with those specific needs in mind.
And would they be single occupancy rooms or double occupancy?
They're all private. They're all private.
Private, yeah.
And what would be your monthly base rate for that service?
I believe in memory care, we've been forecasting to start at monthly about $7,500 per month and you shopped around that's frankly really a little below what we've seen in terms of the average market price around us, but that's right now what we're carrying. So it'll be in that range.
What's your regular?
That's in addition to the, we talked last time about the sort of typical $400,000 upfront deposit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and the entrance fee into independent living, right?
But what if someone, what's assisted living? You just come in assisted living. What's the monthly rate for assisted living?
Well, that is Al, our CFO's on the call. Al, what's our monthly average assisted living rate right now? Direct admit. You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, I was trying to find the mute button. So, yeah, it varies on the floor plan and the size of the apartment. It's anywhere from about $4,000 to $5,000 a month.
Right.
I apologize. I'm new on the board, so I was not at your other meeting that you.
Right.
So I do have one question. I understand there's basically you pay in to get into the independent part of the facility. What happens then when you either move up to one of the other 2 levels? And then again, as far as your what you paid in, and then what happens then if you're asked to, if you come into the circumstance that you just talked about, where you're asked to leave the campus because you just don't have the facilities that are adequate for care?
Right, that's a good question. So Blake, it's referred to as a life care model. So in exchange for paying that upfront entrance fees is what we refer to it as. That provides for discounts as you move through the continuum. So if someone moves into independent living and then later on needs long-term care in skilled nursing or living, or later on memory care, they receive a significant discount relative to what somebody would pay in those levels of care if admitted from the outside. So that's the exchange, if you will, in terms of paying that fee. And then when the person leaves the campus, they could move out, they might pass away, but their estate gets 90% of that original entrance fee amount back. It is returned to them. 90% of it is the basic contract. There's a couple of different contract types, but that's the main one. Does that
Yeah,
answer?
that answers it. Thank you.
And Brian, one quick question: if one moves from the independent to assisted living, and of course you resell the unit that they were in, do they get their refund while they're in assisted living, or do they have to wait till they die or move out?
Yeah, they have to wait till they die or move out because they're getting the healthcare discount while they're in assisted.
Get a discount, so you keep the money until they.
Rising the benefit, right? So they have to.
Right.
They have to leave the community. In order to get the refund.
Right. Well, feet first or otherwise, I guess. Right.
We call it a
Okay.
celestial discharge sometimes.
A what? A
Celestial
celestial
discharge.
Celestial. Okay, got it. Further questions? If not, we have a resolution before us that was presented in the packet. I say before us, but it's in the packet that we need to approve to consider this application for final approval and issuing the bonds up to 100 million. Do we have anybody?
I do have one other quick question with
110 million. Excuse me. Go ahead. Sure. Go ahead.
With regard to that initial pay-in fee. So you said that the 90% of it is basically not refunded, but given back upon death or upon leaving the facility. So does that mean that the funds that you collect from them, whatever it is in the initial thing, does that go into some kind of escrow, or do you use that money and then just come up with it when somebody has to leave or they pass?
Right. So under, I think Tennessee Department of Insurance, I think, regulates CCRCs in the state. Some states do require that to be escrowed. Tennessee is not one of those states, so it's not technically escrowed. Now, we internally essentially set those funds aside, if you will, on our balance sheet. That's not required. We're not required to do that. So, I mean, they're part of, technically speaking, they're part of operating funds. But again, you don't get your refund until your unit has been resold.
Okay.
So those dollars, there's an exchange of dollars that occur.
Okay.
And it was explained initially that some of those new funds or the new units will be used to pay off some of the bonds. Is that?
Yeah, the first generation entrance fee of those 51 new apartments will pay off the bonds. And actually, I think it requires about 85% of those apartments. But yeah, and then after that, the bonds are paid off and you're kind of in the normal operating flow with that.
So is there a motion for the resolution? Anyone?
Moved.
Okay. It's moved by by Dick. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, is that Dr.
Isaac. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Isaac? Okay. Isaac. Okay. Thank you, sir. Any further questions or discussion? If not, we'll take the roll, please, Sarah. Call the roll to approve this resolution for final approval and issuance of the bonds for the Blakefords.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Dr. Aday,
Aye.
Shell Baldwin,
Aye.
actually, Ms. Sharp,
Aye.
Mr. Moth,
Aye.
and Chairman Meyer.
Aye.
So 7-0.
Okay. Thank you
We
very much.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you
luck
very
with
much.
the project, and you expect to close, you say, in November and start construction soon thereafter?
Yep. Come visit us.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
That concludes the business on our agenda. Let's see, do we have any other old business? I think, Cindy, based on the resolution we had last time about Well, we're taping our meetings now. Cindy, do we have any requests for anybody wanting to look at these meetings? Have we had anybody look at meetings?
Well, since if everybody has another minute, I'll just give you a brief update. Since our last meeting, Sarah and I have been in touch with the Metro Nashville Network, and our May and August meetings are both now on the Metro YouTube channel. And so we checked, in fact, earlier this afternoon, and one of the meetings had 7 views and one had 10. And Sarah and I decided between the two of us, we're probably at least half of those because we keep checking to make sure it's still working. I'm not kidding, but hopefully you all have had the opportunity to see them. Everybody looks great on there. And this meeting, we'll do the same procedure. We'll contact the Metro Nashville Network and have our IT folks send us the recording and get it to them. It's also posted on our webpage of the board. So there's a link on there as well where you can access these. And then once we get in person, we haven't quite worked through that yet, because according to the Metro Nashville Network, as we all know, they're very short on manpower and resources in our current city situation. And they said there are over 80 boards and commissions. They're actually charter metro boards, which does not include us. And they don't have enough folks to even cover all of those. And so at this moment in time, they're not able to help us. But we're going to continue that dialogue and just see what our options might be. So that's my brief report, but I would encourage all of you to check out the links. They're online.
When you access our meetings on YouTube and you see the number of views, can you tell the duration of any one view?
I don't think so.
No.
I was wondering if you could identify who viewed them, I guess, but that would be like checking who checks out library books, right?
Probably. Well, and the gentleman at the Metro Nashville Network, he very politely said, "And who are you? And what are you?" And I encouraged him to also watch the videos, which he did, because he had to convert them to the proper format for us. And he was very helpful and very nice to do that. We'll do the same with today's meeting.
It takes 15 years to make an overnight sensation. So great first steps. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I will also mention, Mr. Meyer, if I may.
Yes.
We've had a couple, I'll call them soft requests. I don't have anything official, just a couple inquiries from borrowers counsel asking if we have any other meetings the rest of the year. And as the board knows, and for Shell's information, we meet as needed. And so we'll be in touch with you, but I would anticipate we may need another meeting before year end. And maybe we'll all be able to be back together by then. I don't know.
And are these are these housing proposals, or do you know?
One is healthcare and one is housing at this point.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything they wish to bring up?
Just a glowing recommendation of Sweetability Bakery, which may have changed my life over the weekend. The cake was technically for a 7-year-old, but I had a rough week last week because Cindy had to talk me through which hand tools to get because I went on my first plumbing service call. So I was like stumbling through a Lowe's. Do you guys know those wet floor signs are $19.99? I just picked one up thinking like, oh, this will be handy. And it was the most expensive thing that I bought, but we avoided I didn't flood anything. So I feel like I was totally geared up. So thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Shell.
Well, thanks for making the recommendation. Now I have to go check it out.
We're full service.
Serious sweet.
Given our YouTube videos, this is all a bit terrifying.
Oh yeah,
we'll give her some
I should probably start wearing a shirt that has like a couple logos on it. I don't know. I mean, 7 views. There's a lot of real estate. You know, when you wear a 52 short jacket like I do. So So I guess food for thought.
When COVID abates, maybe we can use that as a meeting venue.
Yes.
Okay, not seeing any further business, then I'll adjourn this meeting, and thank you all very much for your time and efforts today to be here, be present.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank
you.
you.
You all
Thanks,
take care.
everyone.
Take care,
Bye.
everybody.
All right,
All right.
bye.